Bradford City got cup fever more than 50 years ago now. Jump all day, you can shut your mouth. The silk scarf said it all, the giants were gonna fall. But that sneaky ball got past them. In 76, all of Bradford was excited and got their kicks thinking of what they might have been.
Hello everybody. Welcome to the Record Cafe. Normally it's Dave introducing these, but as Dave is the sporting at lunchtime lecture speaker this week, I should say also for those unaware, this is the latest of our series of pre-Bradford City sporting at lunchtime lectures. I'm introducing because Dave and Mike are hosting. And again, for those unaware, it is 50 years since Bradford City played Southampton in the FA Cup quarter-final. Still many people traumatised by that game. I'm slightly before my time, so I'm very, very interested to hear about this. It's not something I know so much about. You hear of the big games over the years, and this is one that's kind of passed me by a bit for some reason. So I'm really interested to hear this one. So without any further ado, please welcome Dr. David Pendleton.
A few want to realise that before the Rotherham game that was called off, Mike was going to do a talk about the artwork of the cover of the City Jet fanzine. And so I threw a few dates at him for a rearrangement. Now, we have rearranged it for later in the year, but he did say, March, that's almost 50 years to the day since City played Southampton in the FA Cup quarter-final, rather. Which was a bit of a shock. 50 years. I've had to put 50 in brackets, a bit like the teleprint of now. So I was amazed at the fact that 50 years has somehow whizzed by in that time. It was yesterday, 50 years ago yesterday, that City got to the FA Cup quarter-final, and it was a big deal. We were frankly terrible in the 1970s, and to be on national television was amazing. The FA Cup was the thing. It was, forget the league. The attendances for the FA Cup ties would spike every single time, which is a complete reversal as to what we've got today. So we thought, Mike's pointing his finger at me, so he's got something to say. Well, we're going to just pass things on. We'll be very casual today. Mike.
I was just going to agree to us, as a fan in the 70s, growing up, I think we were all a certain generation. Dave, as you said, Dave said, the FA Cup was the thing. I think we almost like were resigned to being, maybe a third or fourth division side, but mainly fourth division side. But obviously, maybe we might brush up on this. But the fact is that you can go from Tottenham in 1970 to Southampton in 1976, and the cup runs in between. And for Bradford City, it was all about the cup runs. To my mind, in those days, everything else was just, it's all just your usual dire fourth division stuff that the diehards like ourselves used to go to.
And as an illustration of this, we're going to take you through each round as it happens. And this is round one on the 22nd of November 1975. Bradford City won, Chesterfield 0. Don Hutchin scored late on with a header. Mike's got the programme held up there. There's all sorts of props. 4,352 doesn't sound a lot, but it was significantly more than the previous games. I think there's 2,000 or 3,000 at the previous game. I remember Don Hutchin scoring with a header at the Bradford end, which was very unusual for Don. He was a flying winger with his tremendous locks, and he used to stream out behind him as he shot down the wing. And I said to my brother jokingly, that's a first step on the road to Wembley. And when I was 11, I was daft. I'm now not 11, but I'm still daft. And it kind of was, because guess what? We got all the way to the quarter-final, but it was an amazing start. I always thought it was a night match, but it's because Don scored in the dark, because it was obviously, we had floodlights, by the way. It was quite a late thing. Any memories of that match, Mike?
Yeah, I just remember that it was just such a very close game. Obviously, we played Chesterfield, who at the time were like a mid-table third division side, and where lower end of the Fourth Division, but of course, being just the lower leagues taking part in rounds 1 and 2, the fact is that it was a big deal for us to play a League One, a Division 3 side, should I say. And I've just had a look so the week before. So like Dave's mentioned, 4,352. The week before, we lost 1-0 to Hartlepool, and there was 2,009 people at Valley Parade. So I don't think I can remember that one particularly, but I certainly remember I was stood on in my usual place on the Midland Road towards the Bradford end, and I have a feeling that it was Trevor Hockey that actually made the goal for Don Hutchins. But as Dave says, very unusual for Don Hutchins to actually score a header. November, getting dark, so it was quite dark at the Bradford end. But I think it was about 4 minutes from time, perfect time to get a winner.
I forgot Trevor Hockey played in that game, didn't he? And by the way, just to install the kit, no sponsors in those days, nothing flashed like that. It was a few years later that we got, was it National Breakdown with somebody or Tommy City in the early 80s. White kid with a claret number stripes. Pete's going to say.
Can we just a bit quiet, guys, down that far end, please? Guys. Hello? Yeah, if I could just quiet down a bit at the far end, please, guys. Because people want to do hear this stage. They put a lot of effort into it, people do want to hear it, so cheers, guys.
Thanks, Keith. Yeah, there was no sponsors. It was been 1982, I think the first sponsor came along. So they had white claret number stripes. It was Don Hutchins, one of the icons of the era. Now, in round 2, we went to Rotherham. And I wasn't allowed to go. I wanted to go on the train, but my dad said, no, you're 11. You're not going on the train for some reason. And it was a bit rumbustious times. You've got to remember that I'd like to have seen today's stewards deal with 1970s football fans because they wouldn't. It was quite rough. And that's a decent crowd, actually, 7,006 compared to what was at Valley Parade City. It took a lot down from memory. Mike was there, so better tell us. More programmes being shown up. Big Joe Cook scored, one of the icons of the era. Not just because he's a pioneering black player, it was also it was a tough bloke. You'll see a big flag later on that somebody made that said "Kill 'em Joe" on it. So you can see he was a robust character. Jerry Ingram scored the other 2 goals. Jerry came from Blackpool in the early 70s. I remember him scoring against Blackpool in 1973 at Valley Parade, when they put the prices up to a shocking 2 pence. And I remember my dad giving me a 2 pence piece to go in, and I felt like a millionaire for a very short time. Mike, you went to this game, so you'll better tell us a bit more about it.
Yeah, 13th of December. So once again, another sort of afternoon game which turns dark as the winter comes in. And just reminding me of I've got the Yorkshire Sports here, and the title is, the headline is Brilliant City Hit, 3 in Cup Win. And as David Markham has said, this crowd of 7,006 was Rotherham's highest of the season, which included a large City contingent. And what I remember it because back in the day, my father used to take me to away games, and of course, to go to another third division side, a side higher up than us, but obviously fairly local. So it was a good chance to go down and watch the game. I remember it was a very sort of close 0-0 at half time, and then Joe Cook scored just after half time, and then we absolutely battered them. And I know Jerry Ingram did get a couple of goals later on in the game, but to go to Rotherham and win 3-0 was just massive, because, like I say, we were just a very, very, very average Fourth Division side, not doing much. Mid-table to lower reaches, and yet we now knocked 2 Division 3 sides out, and the Rotherham game very, very convincingly, because to go to Millmore and win 3-0 was fantastic. And then of course we're all waiting then to see who can we get in the 3rd round.
We'll put these pictures, Joe, when he puts the video on YouTube, will put some of his pictures, but the picture of Joe Cook there is fantastic, mainly because of the background. Not that Joe Cook wasn't fantastic, he was, but there's the Kop in all its crumbling glory. which was handy if you fancied launching things at the away fans. And it wasn't segregated at that time. They did segregate after the Southampton game. And at the top was a tea hut, and above it you'll see an advertisement and a lot of letters A, B, C, D, E, F, G, etc. And of course, at half time there was slot in the latest scores, and you had to look at the back of your programme and work out who was A and who was B, so you work out what the scores were. There was no transistor radios, mobile phones in your pockets or anything like that. So as Mike said, round 3, exciting round 3. You get the big boys coming in, and who do we get? We got Shrewsbury away.
Another third division side.
Another third division side, and it's 3rd of January, so into the new year. 6,500 there. Joe Cook, Don Hutchins, familiar faces in this cup run was scored. And again, my dad wouldn't let me go on the train again. I've never held it against him since, honestly. But Mike was there, so Mike, once again.
Once again, my programme comes to the rescue. Just, 10p for the programme, 10p. So, yeah, I mean, Shrewsbury sounded really exotic to me. I mean, obviously, because it's not a team we'd played really in the 4th Division. So it was really exciting. Of course, it's the 3rd round of the Cup. And even though I suppose we would have gone down, I remember going down the motorway, down obviously the 62, the early days of the 62 and the M6. And of course, I think as a kid, I just love the fact that you would be seeing other teams going elsewhere, the scars flying out of the car windows, and you'd be trying to work out, I must be a Bury fan going to so-and-so, or a Rochdale fan heading wherever. So, yeah, I mean, 3rd round the Cup, I think, those of us of a certain age just remember what a magic day it used to be. Obviously, it's very much diluted these days. But, I remember going through, when was it cross-country to go to Shrewsbury? We ended up in that corner where I think the guy used to launch his coracle to go and get the balls. So we were in that corner, not quite behind the goal, but just in the corner there. I think where the school was behind the one of the goals. And once again, we think, we're the underdogs, we're 4th Division, they're 3rd Division. But we more than held our own. And, just glancing at the old Yorkshire sports with the, Super City blast Shrews out of cup. Big thing about Peter Downsborough being injured. He came back and he played a blinder. Joe Cook scored again. And we won 2-1. They got a very late consolation, but we absolutely dominated that game. And it was just really surprising because we couldn't dominate anything in the 4th Division. And yet in this cup run, that's 3 games now against, 3rd Division sides that maybe we scraped through against Chesterfield late on. So to beat Rotherham 3-0 and then to go to Shrewsbury and beat them 2-1, I think, it was amazing. So I got great memories of that game. And then, of course, we think, okay, right, we didn't get anybody big in the 3rd round of the Cup. We're in the 4th round now. Last 32. Surely we're going to get somebody big.
You know what comes next, don't you? Sorry. Tooting Mitchell. I remember thinking, where the bloody hell's that? And then I found it on the Underground map. So we knew it was in London. They'd done tremendously well. We're a Southern League side. To get to the 4th round was amazing. So we thought, City are bound to win. For the first time in this cup run, we thought, we're going to win. And it was a bumper crowd, 12,152, which is a big crowd for those days. And I remember all sorts of weird things from this game. One was that they put some flags on the Midland Road, which seemed tremendously exciting to my 11-year-old eyes. I thought we were like a big club because we had flags. And then they decided to improve the atmosphere. So Bob Martin, the chairman, hung some microphones in the Bradford end and put it through the tannoy. So, and you'll have to excuse the swearing now, by the way. The swearing will now commence. Some things like, the great ditties of the era, like, you're going to get your fucking heads kicked in, were all around the ground echoing about. It was fantastic. The Tooting fans, there weren't too many of them, were sat, they were in the main stand, up on the part of the main stand nearest the Cobb. And at the end of the game, there's some City fans invaded the pitch and decided to celebrate by throwing bricks at them. So this is This is 1976, of course. And for some reason, we changed kits that day. We played in claret tops and amber tops and claret shorts, which I completely forgotten about. And I don't know if this was on Match of the Day, but it surely must have been. I've never seen footage of it, and there certainly isn't any cameras on the Midland Road, so I don't know. But Mike might have better memories than myself. By the way, Johnny Hutchins again, 2 goals, and John Middleton scoring as well.
As was the case back in those 70s, if ever Bradford City had a big cup game, because really, as I said before, it was all about cup games, really. We never had any big league games. To guarantee yourself a decent spot, we tended, or my father anyway, because obviously he was buying the tickets, I was only 14 and a half at the time, we'd buy a ticket in the main stand. So in actual fact, yeah, we were actually sitting with the Twickenham Mitcham fans in the main stand in that area, just sort of towards the Cop end. And also we were getting the benefit of Bob Martin's innovative tannoy streaming, which just sounded terrible at the time. It really was. But, and really, I mean, as Dave says, there was a good crowd of 12,000 people there, which, you know, for the Old Valley Parade, that was pretty decent. I mean, I look back and think, how on earth did we get 23,000 in against Tottenham? But we did somehow, or that seemed to be the official attendance. But certainly, by the time we got to 1976, Valley Parade could really only comfortably hold maybe 16,000 at the most. And but yeah, no, I don't know why we played in those shirts, but we did. And what I do remember about the game, and I mean, Dave just mentioned about the fact that Tooting and Mitcham got to the 4th round, but I mean, to be fair, they beat Romford in the 1st round, Leatherhead in the 2nd round, and Swindon in a 3rd round replay. So they were probably just like as miffed as us that they didn't get a big side in the 4th round as well. And of course, you know, to come up to Bradford, and then of course we have to suffer our awful tannoy system. And to be fair, I remember from memory of the game, they really put up a hell of a fight, and even though the score was 3-1 in the end, I thought at times we weren't going to win that game. But as you say, Super Don Hutchins came to the rescue once again, and obviously as the Yorkshire Post Sport, should I say, Hutchins strikes and City are in round 5. So, Donners gave City the lead after 23 minutes. So, I mean, that FA Cup run was such a run for Don Hutchins. I mean, you know, he really shouldn't have been playing for us and at our level, but he was just such a great player. And yeah, at last now, round 5, surely we're going to get something bigger than that.
We did. We got Norwich. But before we get to Norwich, there was a lot of special trains went all over the place. There was a lot more special trains in those days. And this is an absolutely fantastic photograph from the TNA at the time of City fans at the interchange waiting to catch a special train. I can't know if this is the Norwich game or not. But you can see some of the garbs at the time, and we'll put this online. It's a fantastic image. There's a chap here with his Killam Joe flag, which I remember well from the cup run, you know. And there's a kid here who could be me actually, but it isn't. I think I wasn't allowed on the train. 3-star jumper, a denim jacket full of patches, and some scruffy flag. That's the same haircut. So I thought it was me, but then I realised I didn't go to this game, so it can't have been me. Yeah, so we got Norwich, and we should have played them on a Saturday, but the team got flu. Was it flu? I think they got. But then I interviewed Don Hutchins for I think it was the 30th anniversary, and Don said he didn't have flu, but was rung up and told to stay at home because we had some injuries. Don't be seen going anywhere, and that's why they got the game called off. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but Don was quite convinced that there wasn't really a flu epidemic amongst the team. So we went down to Norwich on was it a Tuesday night, Mike? It was our show Wednesday. Monday night there. And John Bottom, the manager of Norwich City, who were a First Division side and a very good side, basically said that a team like this shouldn't be in the fifth round of the cup if they can't put a team out. And he also said, I'm not surprised, of course, someone living in a city like Bradford. So as you can imagine, this went down like a ton of bricks with the supporters. And the fans on the trains chanted, John Bond, shut your mouth, when we were 2-1 up late on. But an astonishing victory. Don Hutchins gave us the lead in the first half. There is some footage that we might try and add to this presentation when it goes on, of Don Hutchins scoring a cross shot, as he described it. I asked him if it was a cross or a shot. He said it's a cross shot. It was clearly a cross that went wrong, but it went in. Was it Martin Peters equalised for Norwich? And then very late on, Billy McGinley, who should have passed. He should have passed. It must have been Jerry Ingram was clean. He had an open goal, but Billy shot, hit the keeper, came back to him. But luckily, he's tucked away the rebound, and that was that really. And suddenly, Billy McGinley was this kind of nothing of a player, his name was emblazoned on silk scarves, which we'll talk about silk scarves shortly, don't worry. So it was amazing, and I just remember listening to it on the radio, and I don't know what radio, would it be Pennine by then? I can't remember if they just started.
Maybe, but maybe
Radio 2.
Radio 2.
Yes, I remember listening to it on the radio at home and being absolutely astonished that we'd managed to win, but Mike was at the game.
A vivid memory of going back. My grandfather used to have a butcher's shop on Barcrane Road, just a little bit higher up than where that petrol station is now on the right-hand side. I remember going back there for some tea after the Tooting and Mitcham game. I might have been after one of the other games, because certainly the discussion was how we're going to get to Norwich. Bradford City are going to put on a special train. As a special treat, I'm going to go on a train to Norwich. And we were just like, so excited to be doing that. And of course, the original game was scheduled for Saturday the 14th of February, as Dave says. We may or may not have had a flu epidemic at the club, but we certainly avoided playing on that day. It seems mad now, but the fact is that, obviously at the moment, Graham Alexander's probably got 25 players to pick from, and he can pick 11 and he can put 7 on the subs bench. Back then, we're talking about a team that, you've got 11 players, 1 substitute, and maybe 2 or 3 fringe players that occasionally got a game. So it really was Bradford City was so much run on a shoestring anyway, but really we had maybe 14, 15 players to choose from. So of course, if there's a bit of an injury crisis or a bit of flu going round, you can see why back in the day that teams did have to sometimes say, look, we just can't field a team. The John Bond certainly became persona non grata in Bradford just with his comments, because he was just so arrogant. And yet then you read his programme notes and say, we've got to be very wary about Bradford City because we struggled to get past Rochdale recently, and they put up a good fight, etc. But and he sort of apologised for his comments, but he really didn't mean it. You could just tell the arrogance of the man. So of course, we go down there, and it's mentioned in the TNA, which I'll show you in a minute. But the fact is that anybody that is here that was on that train today will very, very remember the train breaking down somewhere in the fens of Cambridgeshire, in the mist. I'd never heard of a place called March, but apparently we were somewhere near March in Cambridgeshire, sitting on this train was it Dis? Was March the next station then, possibly? And nobody knew what was going on. We just sat there it just seemed hours. And then, of course, you're looking at your watch thinking, are we going to get there on kick-off time? And somehow, I don't know how they got the train going again, but it did get going again. And we probably pulled into Norwich Station well after 7 o'clock. I remember, and I'm 14, my dad would have been 37. Not particularly fit 37, I don't think. But I remember we had to do a bit of a jog to get to the ground, to get in for 7:30 for the kick-off. We were sat in the stand. We were on the left-hand side of the halfway line. The players come opposite towards the open end, which where Billy McGinley scored the goal. we seem to be, you know, obviously a fair few City fans had bought seats as we did, but obviously a few had some terrace seats as well, and yeah, we just wanted to put one over John Bond for all his comments, and the fact that we did. I mean, you know, once again, Super Don Hutchins goes down the left wing, cuts inside, beats Kevin Keelan at the near post, and we go 1-0 over there. Wow. And then, of course, immediately they go up the other end and score, and it's Martin Peters that scores at the open end. But then, you know, we gave as good as we got. I mean, you know, for a Fourth Division side away at Norwich and First Division side at the time. And then, of course, you know, as Dave says, we finally get one late chance, as teams often do. And yeah, we're all screaming for Billy McGinley to pass it to Jerringham. And then he misses the first chance, but then somehow he almost mishits it into the net, and we just go absolutely wild. And of course, amazing, because, you know, I'd followed City and we'd been to fourth round games in 73, 74. I remember going out of Luton and almost getting beat before we even started, because I think we conceded in the first minute. But then, you know, to go and win a fifth round game, get to the sixth round, which as it turns out is the first time since 1920, back in the golden age of Bradford City, just pre and post World War One. But to do as a Fourth Division side, and of course, you know, we know in recent times, having had that magnificent League Cup run as a Fourth Division side, you know, everybody loves an underdog, and all of a sudden now the focus is on Bradford City, because wow, we're the Fourth Division side, and of course at the time as well we knew we were fighting for a sixth round home game against Southampton. Not a First Division side, but still a big side.
Was that the biggest crowd you'd ever been? 27,000.
I would say yeah. I would say yeah. 27,000. I went to loads of away games, as was my happy delight really to go to away games in those days. But you know, we're talking about going to Hartlepool and Doncaster and Chester even, or Halifax. So yeah, and even cup games, I don't think, having been to Luton in 1974, there's no way that was 10, 11, 12,000. So yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. 27,000 would have been the biggest crowd I would have been a part of at that stage in my Bradford City supporting career.
You should look in your Rothmans and see if that's the biggest crowd for Norwich that season. Oh, that's an idea. So we got Southampton, but we became the focus of a cup fever. We've been talking about cup fevers, don't the people, butchers putting all sorts of displays and cakes and what have you. It really happened. And for the first time in my Bradford City supporting life, I was used to being annoyed by Leeds United fans and people. There's even one lad who supported Scotland and Brazil in our school, and you could see Valley Parade from our ground. There was about 4 of us who went all the time. Suddenly everybody was City fans. Everybody. I remember our games lesson at Woodend School down at Windhill, and the games master said, "Anybody got a ticket for Saturdays?" "I have, sir. I always go." "Oh, well done." It was a really big thing that I was going to watch Bradford City in the quarter-final of the FA Cup. And I remember walking up the ground on the day, and again there was 12 or 13,000, whatever it is, we'll see in a minute. It felt like a big game. Television cameras were there. We've been in the newspapers all week. I mean, just getting the Telegraph and Argus was hard enough, never mind the Daily Mirror. And then there was touts. I'd never seen a tout in my life. There were ticket touts for a Bradford City game. This was incredible. And yeah, they were all Scousers, yeah. And then there were other touts selling silk scarves. Now, silk scarves were a very 1970s thing. There's an image of them up there. The one in the middle says Bobby's Dazzlers, and that was a reference to Bobby Kennedy, the manager. And I used to have 2 of these. I used to wear one round each wrist, and sometimes I wear a third if it was a big game. I probably had 3 on this game. You'd have one round your neck, one round each wrist. It was a real big thing. If it got really exciting, you'd tie it around your forehead. It was... Silk scarves were kind of the very early manifestation of sporting culture, because we didn't have scarves. If your grandma knitted you a scarf, you were lucky. And then they started coming on sale in the sort of, I think probably very early 70s, probably 73, 74, somewhere like that. And then suddenly you've got people, touts, turning up, flogging Bradford City tat. It was fantastic. I really wanted all of it, but I wasn't allowed it. And there was silk flags were sold. It was an amazing time to be around. But we played Southampton, second division Southampton. And now we're think, we've got a second division side at home, we've beaten first division side away, we've beaten third division sides away, why can't we go on? And we knew that Crystal Palace, were they a second or third division side, were also in there. And he thought, my goodness, and we started dreaming as you do. Oh man, we could get to the final. And we genuinely thought for the first time, we began to dream that we might actually get there. 14,195, which is a huge crowd for Bradford City back then. I couldn't get my usual, I used to stand in the Bradford end of the Cobb, but they sold out really quickly. Southampton had a lot of tickets on the Cobb. And so I ended up in the paddock for the first time in my life. I remember stood round what I thought was a lot of old blokes who were probably the same age I am now. And it did strike me that some of these old blokes might have actually known about the FA Cup in 1911. And it was the first time, well, in my mind's eye, I thought, these lot were there, they all went to it. But it was the first time that link was made, because when you were growing up, and City were terrible, they were awful, the ground was falling apart, it was just a mess. The one thing you could cling on to is we were the winners of we won the first winners of the current FA Cup. And that's the only thing I could play back at the Leeds United fans at school. And they won the cup by then, hadn't they? But there you go. Anyway, they went rambling on a bit here. So the quarter-final, 14,195, we lost 1-0 to an incredibly controversial goal. But what's fabulous about this game is there were lots and lots of photographs taken. Probably more photographs taken of this game than the previous 50 years of Bradford City's history. And it is incredibly a colour photograph of Joe Cook and is that
Peter Osgood.
Peter Osgood in the middle, yeah. And Middleton, isn't it?
No. Paul.
David Hall, thank you. Gosh, yeah, there we are. So it was an incredible afternoon. I just remember the Southampton fans were up on the Cobb. Oh, part of it anyway. We'll see another picture of that in a moment, which will bring to life some of the elements of that afternoon that were perhaps might be turned unsavoury. Here's Joe Cook, absolutely hammering someone with a late challenge. Kill him, Joe. He was a tough bloke.
Look how many people were squeezed into the middle row.
Yeah, the middle road's very
like
good.
6 foot wide.
But the middle road was wider then. The narrowed it in the
yeah,
early 80s. Yeah, so it's a bit wider. But all the same, you know, it's just a picture redolent of it here. I'll just keep going through some of these images. And there we are again. That's a classic picture, the old Valley Parade, the old main stand there. And obviously the houses haven't been demolished around the ground. There's the Cop and the flattened area where there used to be a house, which was the club offices. I can't remember that part, which normally just had the light blue disabled cars parked on a match day. But yeah, everything about the ground was, the area around the ground was falling to pieces. I remember was it the season after we played Sheffield Wednesday? Or the season after that, actually, isn't it? In 1978, we played Sheffield Wednesday. And there was people, Sheffield Wednesday were given all the Cop, and there were people sticking their heads out of the roofs and sitting on the chimney pots watching the game. And then later in the game, some City fans got in there and started chucking slates into the Sheffield Wednesday fans, which was welcome at Bradford. We had a bit of that in the Southampton game, of course. You know, this is the 1970s. Again, I mentioned the silk flags on sale. You can see there. This is the Cop end, obviously. You can see some of the houses that are long, long gone now. And then here we are. This is absolutely redolent of this era. Shannon is bionic. The Southampton fans have got up, so you know you think about the $6 million man, and also you'll notice there's a big gap in here because there's a massive scrap going on. I was 11 years old, stood with my dad in the paddock and my brother, and we were just watching wave after wave of people coming on being arrested. And there was a Southampton fan in white skinners, you know, with the boots on, with his nose all over his face, with two coppers dragging him out, and some of the old blokes near me, "Oh, teacher, welcome to Bradford." So it was a rough day. It was a very rough day, and of course, this is a fantastic photograph. Well, it's not a fantastic photograph. It's showing Southampton's goal, the famous goal. I was over there somewhere. I was kind of over there.
I was probably sitting behind you in the
Mike's in the posh seats as usual. So he put his foot on the ball, he flicked on Jim McCallie, a brilliant volley to be fair, stuck it right in the corner. When we watched it, we'll try and get the footage when we put it online. But when the free kick is given, the Bradford end chance there's going to be a riot. When the ball goes in, the old classic comes out, you're going to get your ears kicked in. So yeah, welcome to Bradford. I do remember this game because it's one of the first times I saw a toilet roll thrown at Valley Parade, which was exciting, because it is the 1970s, of course. So, Mike, you'll have a lot of memories of this game, so I've rambled enough about this one.
No worries. So, yeah, as Dave says, we were using the posh seats because, once again, you just knew...
Posh seats.
Posh seat, well, I say that relatively. But to be fair, I think we were in the front section, which had some tip-up seats, whereas obviously the back section were just like wooden planks with a little spacer between to say, this is your number, this is where you sit. And certainly for, as we pointed out from the picture at Valley Parade, I remember that our seats that we got were towards the Bradford end this time. But it's once again, it's like, well, how can you guarantee you're going to get your own little space to watch the game? So you're always just best try and get, if you can, and somehow we managed, so my father did anyway, managed to get seats in the stand, because really, if you were just buying a ticket to either stood on the paddock or in the Midland Road or the Bradford end, you really didn't know, even if you get a decent view, because we all knew it was going to be a massive game. And as I say, cup fever took over. So, I mean, just going very slightly back, I mean, I did from the 5th round game, I mean, how the TNA, I mean, that shows you how the magnitude of the Norwich game was, because it went on the front page of the TNA the day after. And they did that overnight. So, I mean, fair credit to them. Obviously, we've got David Markham's match report on the back, and I know Phil's kept some bits of it, but I just kept the whole paper because I thought, this is just one to keep. And once again, I suppose it's amazing I've still got that 50 years on. As Dave mentioned as well, I think I've got this from the Daily Mail. Yes, there were people that went to the 1911 Cup final because they managed to find some guy. This guy called Ken Marsden, who was coming up to his 78th birthday, and he's looking forward to a trip to London on May the 1st to see his first FA Cup final at Wembley Stadium, because he went to Old Trafford in 1911 as a 13-year-old. And obviously he was looking forward to the Southampton game, thinking, well, yeah, we've got a chance. We've got a chance to be, the first time in, 64 years, 65 years. And there's a thing here saying, hoping for a 4,000 bonus, Bradford City directors met yesterday afternoon formulating plans to increase the capacity by another 4,000. So, because basically we're stuck at 16,000 and they were going to try and work a way of getting more people in. It didn't happen. I mean, interestingly enough, I think the crowd was given something like 14,000. I think it was later, there was something saying that was later adjusted to 16,000. But still, it was packed that day. And of course, because of and this is the main thing as well. There was such a hoo-ha about putting the prices up. I mean, Phil, you've got your ticket there, but it was like £1.50 for the stand. Yeah, £1.50 to get a seat in the stand, and probably about £1 or something to stand, or maybe 50p for juniors. But everybody bought at the prices. That Bradford City, they're all cashing in on this. But we needed to. We were pretty much, a Stony Broke Fourth Division side, living on a shoestring. And really, as much as the dream didn't survive because of that illegal free kick, so we didn't get to meet Third Division Crystal Palace in the semi-final, which Southampton did. And then, of course, they got to the final. And then, of course, we all cheered when they beat Man United. So, they were having, because obviously we all cheered when Sunderland beat Leeds in 73. And there was a big thing about the fact that was the first time a second division side had won the FA Cup since the 30s. And then within 3 years, another second division side is beating the mighty Man United with that Bobby Stokes goal. So I thought we sort of well, they beat us, so we don't mind if they beat, if they win the FA Cup, because we lost to the cup winners. But yeah, and the one legacy of that 75-76 cup run, and yeah, whatever money we made out of that's the Southampton game, is that forged the team that then went on to get promotion from Division 4 the year after. With only a couple of additions. I think Terry Dolan joined in the summer, and he made a big difference. But it was pretty much the same side that then went through. And yeah, we only finished 4th, but that's all you needed to do in those days. So so it really was a catalyst for the promotion the year after. And obviously, you know, we're here 50 years on talking about it. It just gave us great memories. But yeah, I mean, we were so close. I mean, to only lose 1-0 to a dodgy free kick. And yeah, as Dave said as well, you know, to be on match of the day, probably for only the second time, because I fully remember the first time when we played Tottenham in January 1970. So, you know, that's massive for Bradford City, you know, and for us as teenagers at the time. So no, I mean, absolute great memories. But I say the one good thing that came out of it was the fact that we finally won a promotion. We won in '69, so 77, 8 years. But then of course that promotion didn't last because we went straight back down again.
Gosh, yeah. And this, I wanted to finish with this photograph, and again we will put this online, because it's just so redolent of the era. There's Donny Hutchins in the middle, the hero of the cup run. But sat amongst them was a Kinder Parker, there's a homemade Cup Kings banner, there's a silk scarf, a denim jacket. It's all going on there. The only thing we're missing is a bog roll flying in the background. It'd be fantastic, wouldn't it?
Or a brick.
Or a punch up, you know. Some sort of violence, yeah. It was, like Mike said, it led on to the promotion of 76, 77, the first time I'd seen any success at all at Ballard Parade. It was an astonishing time, really. Of course, it didn't really go anywhere. We went up and then we came back down again. And then, of course, we went on to the early 80s and we had to wait for the McFarland era, the era of Batman progressism. But in some respects, it was the first time my generation of City fans had been allowed to dream that we might actually do something and that we're not just going to chug along in the bottom division with a ground that's fallen to pieces and fading memory of a cup run. And of course, Park Avenue by this time had gone out of the league and gone out of existence, so we were beginning to move towards a one-team city, which eventually would make a massive difference, and I think to this day makes a very big difference. We kind of cancelled each other out, didn't we? But it was an era when we dared to dream. I still think of that free kick. It was illegal. We should have been taken back to a replay somewhere, or we should have been awarded the tie. Then we would have beaten Crystal Palace clearly in the semi-final. Then we would have got to the final, and because we were nearly as good as Southampton, we would have then won the cup. So on that 4, I think we're about there. We're back again, aren't we, Mike? Mike, you're back. I can't remember what day it is. I'm so organised.
April 11th?
April 11th. We'll go with April 11th. That sounds good. Mike's going to talk about the art of the City Gent and how many editions we're up to now?
252.
252, goodness me. Of which Mike's done about 3/4. 252 editions of the City Gent, where the artbook has changed, so we look forward to that. Thanks for coming out today. It's been a great turnout, and fingers crossed we're in for another home victory. So get ready to wave your silk scarves above your heads when we finally do that. And thank you all. Thank you very much.
Yeah, leave that colour one up. Yeah.
Meanwhile, fellow Yorkshire strugglers Bradford found themselves in the quarter-finals of the FA Cup, along with several other giant killers.
Southampton in yellow shirts and blue shorts, getting the game underway from right to left. There's a sun shining from one corner of the ground and a wind blowing across the pitch as Shannon goes down. 4 in the Bradford wall. Cook making it 5 because the kick is nearly central. That was 6 now. McCalliog. So simple. A touch of class is what was required, and that's what Southampton produced. As cheeky a free kick as you would like to see. Peter Osgood just knocked the ball up, and Jim McCalliog volleyed it over the wall and past the surprise Downsborough. The man who nearly didn't play through injury has put Southampton in front at such an important time. In it goes to the near post. Out it comes from Bly. Back in again from Johnson. And as he shoots the second time, it's all over. Bradford did their best, but it wasn't quite enough. The delight showing on the faces of the Southampton supporters and players.
Bradford City got cup fever more than 50 years ago now. John Bone, you can shut your mouth. The silk scarf said it all. The Giants were gonna fall, but that sneaky ball got past them. In 76, all of Bradford was excited and got their kicks, thinking of what they might have been. Bradford City got cup fever more than 5 years ago now. Not even the flu could stop them. 'Cause